The haunted asylum window. The old asylum burned many years ago, trapping people inside. Its walls turned black and broken, but the fear remained. Locals whispered that someone survived or never escaped. At night, a pale figure appeared in a shattered window. She always smiled, but the smile felt wrong, too calm for a place of death. Some believed she was a patient. Others said she was a nurse. No one ever learned her name. Children challenged each other to look up at the window. Most ran away screaming after one glance. Explorers entered the ruins and found charred rooms and burned furniture. Fresh footprints appeared in the ashes, though no one else was there. Doors slammed by themselves. Objects slid across the floor without anyone touching them. A cold wind carried soft whispers. Leave or stay forever. People who stared too long at the window dreamed about her smile for weeks. Some said the smile followed them home, appearing in mirrors and dark corners. Even after the fire, her shadow stayed in the empty halls. She still waits in that window, proving that some darkness cannot be burned away. Moral of the story: fire can destroy a building, but fear and evil often remain. Some horrors never die. The night Spain and Portugal went dark. It began as a normal, warm evening across Spain and Portugal. People cooked dinner, drove cars, and relaxed after a long day. At exactly 6:02 p.m., every light flickered twice. Then the entire region dropped into sudden, total darkness. Phones showed no signal, and every radio went silent. Cars stopped in the streets as if their engines had died at once. Everyone thought it was just a power failure, but the darkness felt too heavy. A strange humming sound came from the sky, low, metallic, vibrating windows. Tall, thin shadows appeared on rooftops, standing completely still. Flashlights barely worked. Their light faded after only a few feet. Animals sensed danger. Dogs howled, birds panicked, horses froze in place. In small villages, glowing eyes appeared in fields, blinking in perfect rhythm. Power station workers entered the control rooms to investigate. Inside, the air was freezing, and the walls were covered in strange handprints. The prints were long, sharp, and nothing like human fingers. After 1 full hour, the lights returned as suddenly as they had vanished. Everything looked normal again, but the rooftop shadows were gone. Now many believe something entered our world that night and waits for the next blackout. Moral of the story: darkness is not always empty. Sometimes, something inside it is waiting to return. The radioactive bat of Las Vegas. In the quiet outskirts of Las Vegas, an underground lab tested new energy materials. One night, a sudden power surge shook the entire facility. A containment chamber cracked open, releasing a strange green light. From the crack, a single bat escaped, glowing faintly in the darkness. Workers tried to capture it, but the bat moved with unnatural speed. By morning, people near the desert saw shadows flying over their rooftops. Every night, the bat grew larger, feeding on insects and something no one could see. Its glowing eyes frightened animals. Even coyotes refused to howl. The desert felt colder whenever the creature passed overhead. A group of hikers later found burned 3-toed footprints near a cave. Inside the cave, the walls were melted smooth, as if touched by radiation. Strange marks covered the stone, like claw scratches that glowed in the dark. As the hikers turned to leave, they heard a low metal-like screech. The radioactive bat hung from the ceiling, wings spread wide. Its whole body trembled, pulsing with green light. Terrified, the hikers ran out of the cave without looking back. The bat didn't chase them, it only screamed, a sound heard miles away. Since that night, locals still see flashes of green above the desert and warn travelers to stay away from caves after dark. Moral of the story: when humans interfere with nature, the consequences can escape, and some mistakes never stop growing. The Antarctica Anomaly. Far beneath Antarctica's frozen surface, scientists detected a strange heat signal. It wasn't a volcano or shifting ice, it was perfectly round, almost artificial. A small research team drilled deep into the glacier to investigate. As they lowered themselves into the new tunnel, their equipment began to malfunction. At the bottom, they found a hidden chamber carved into the ice. The walls were smooth, almost polished, as if cut by advanced machines. Strange blue symbols glowed softly across the walls, pulsing like a heartbeat. One scientist reached out and touched the glowing mark. Instantly, the entire chamber shuddered, shaking snow loose from the ceiling. A deep vibration rose from the earth, slow and heavy. Something enormous moved beneath the ice, stretching after a long sleep. Cracks spread through the floor and walls, echoing like thunder. A cold wind blew upward, carrying a distant, animal-like growl. Panic broke out as the team scrambled toward the tunnel. The ground split open behind them, revealing a faint red glow rising from below. Only one scientist managed to climb out in time. He turned back just as the entire chamber collapsed into a massive glowing pit. Satellites still track the heat signal growing stronger every month, as if something buried is slowly rising. Moral of the story: some secrets are meant to stay frozen. Disturbing the unknown can awaken dangers the world is not ready for. Inside Didi's hidden world, everyone knew Didi as a rich entertainer who loved smiling for cameras, but no one knew what lay beneath his huge mansion. Behind a bookshelf, he kept a secret metal door. It opened to a long underground tunnel that smelled cold and dusty. The lights inside flickered slowly, almost like someone was breathing in the dark. Didi only visited this place at night when everyone else slept. He carried a tiny black key and hummed a strange lullaby while walking. At the end of the tunnel was a giant room made entirely of mirrors. None of the mirrors showed Didi's reflection, not even a shadow. Instead, they showed tall, thin figures standing behind him. Their smiles were stretched too wide, and their eyes never blinked. They whispered his name in soft voices that echoed like a crowd. Didi called them his friends, but he locked the door tightly when he left. One night, workers heard terrible screams coming from the tunnel. They ran down, but every mirror was shattered across the floor. Didi was nowhere to be found, vanished without a trace. Only the dark shadows remained, crawling slowly along the walls. Now people say the abandoned mansion still hums with his lullaby, and the mirrors whisper new names. Moral of the story: secrets hidden in darkness never stay quiet forever. One day, they return for whoever created them. The Ghost of Fox River Prison. In Illinois, the old Fox River Prison was full of dark stories. Guards said they sometimes heard footsteps in empty hallways at night. Some claimed a brilliant inmate once tried to escape, just like Michael Schofield. Even decades later, people reported strange activity in the abandoned prison blocks. Alex, a documentary student, went there to film a project about the history of prisons. When he entered cell block B, his camera began glitching strangely. The walls were covered with odd drawings, arrows, numbers, and escape plans. Suddenly, he heard a soft whisper, "Not this way." Thinking it was a prank, Alex kept walking further into the hallway. Steel doors slammed shut behind him, echoing loudly in the empty prison. A shadowy figure appeared at the end of the corridor, motioning toward a different route. Alex's heart raced, but he decided to follow the shadow, hoping it was a guide. Every step felt tense. The floors creaked under his feet. Strange echoes of past prisoners seemed to whisper all around him. He turned corners, following the figure's silent instructions, scared but determined. Finally, he reached the exit door, sunlight spilling in from outside. When he turned back to thank the figure, no one was there, only an old file on the ground. The file was labeled, "Schofield Escape Attempt," hinting that the ghost had once been real. Moral of the story: some places keep their secrets and their ghosts for decades. The Mirror of Bloody Mary. The legend said that if you say Bloody Mary 3 times in a dark room, she will appear in the mirror. Most people thought it was just a scary game. One night, 3 friends in a small town decided to try it. They turned off all the lights and lit only one candle. They stood in front of the bathroom mirror, feeling nervous. The air grew cold, and the candle flame bent sideways, as if something invisible breathed on it. They whispered her name once, then twice, hearts pounding. On the third time, the mirror rippled like water, like something moved behind it. A pale face appeared in the glass, long black hair, empty eyes, and a red smile too wide. One friend screamed and ran, but the bathroom door slammed shut on its own. The mirror began cracking from the inside, splintering outward as if something was trying to escape. Bloody Mary's hand pressed against the glass, leaving streaks of red. She pushed harder, trying to enter their world. The candle went out suddenly, and darkness filled the room. The friends huddled together, trembling, too scared to move. After a long moment, the lights flickered back on, and they were alive. But Mary's reflection did not leave the mirror. She was still watching them silently. Now, every night at 3 a.m., the mirror fogs by itself, and someone's breath writes, "Say my name again." Moral of the story: legends are warnings, not games. Calling into darkness can invite it to answer, and once it sees you, it never forgets. The Disappearance of Madeleine McCann. In May 2007, a British family went on vacation in Praia da Luz, Portugal. They stayed in a small resort with other tourists. Madeleine McCann was 3 years old at the time. Her parents were eating dinner at a restaurant inside the resort. They checked on their children regularly throughout the evening. Around 10 p.m., Madeleine's mother went to the bedroom. She found that Madeleine was missing. Panic spread immediately as they called the police. Local officers arrived quickly and started searching the resort. Volunteers joined the search, along with dogs trained to track missing children. Helicopters scanned the area from above, hoping to spot any sign. News of Madeleine's disappearance spread rapidly across Portugal. Posters and alerts were posted throughout Europe and the United States. Her case became one of the most well-known missing child cases worldwide. Investigators followed numerous leads over the years, but none solved the mystery. Media coverage kept the story in the public eye for years. Police in several countries continued to review new information, hoping for answers. Madeleine's family continues to hope for her safe return, keeping the case officially open. Moral of the story: every missing child matters. Quick action, awareness, and support from the community can make a difference. Families need help and hope, and even when answers are delayed, vigilance and care can keep the search alive. The Shadow of the Death Note. In a quiet town in the USA, a strange black notebook fell from the sky. Tom, a college student, found it lying near the library steps. The notebook was heavy and cold, as if it had a presence of its own. On the first page, it read, "The human whose name is written in this notebook shall die." Tom laughed, thinking it was a prank inspired by the Death Note anime. That night, he tested it by writing the name of a school bully. The lights in his room flickered, and a cold wind blew through the air. 1 hour later, news reported the bully had collapsed suddenly at home. Tom's heart stopped. The notebook was real, and now it belonged to him. A tall, dark shadow appeared behind him, its eyes glowing faintly. The shadow grinned, showing sharp, menacing teeth. It whispered, "A notebook chooses its owner, and you have been chosen." Tom tried to burn the book, but the pages refused to catch fire. Every attempt to destroy it failed, as if it was alive. From that night on, the shadow followed him everywhere, silent but watching. The notebook seemed to hum, urging him to write again. Tom realized that power without wisdom could destroy not just others, but himself. Terrified, he hid the notebook, but he knew it was only a matter of time before it demanded his next move. Moral: some tools are too dangerous for humans to wield. Power without responsibility becomes a curse, and curiosity can awaken forces beyond understanding. Al. Gustav, the monster of Lake Tanganyika. In Burundi, people living near Lake Tanganyika feared one named Gustav. Gustav was no ordinary crocodile. He was enormous, as long as a school bus. Locals whispered that he had survived bullets, traps, and hunters for decades. Some claimed he had dragged over 300 people into the water. Fishermen rarely stayed late, but Daniel had stayed out longer than usual one evening. The lake was quiet. Too quiet, as if it were holding its breath. Suddenly, the water rippled big, slow, and powerful. Daniel saw two glowing eyes rise from the dark water. Gustav's massive body surfaced, silent, almost like a shadow gliding above the water. The water around him churned as he moved closer to Daniel's boat. Daniel paddled frantically, heart racing, knowing the creature could overtake him in seconds. Gustav followed him like a silent hunter, every movement precise and deadly. The fisherman's hands burned from gripping the paddle too tight. Gustav lunged suddenly, water spraying everywhere, jaws snapping inches away. Daniel reached the shore just in time, his boat splintering under the attack. Gustav lingered in the water, eyes watching, then slowly disappeared beneath the dark surface. At sunrise, only giant claw marks were left in the sand, a terrifying reminder of the encounter. Locals warned. Gustav was still out there, waiting for the next unlucky victim. The Candy Cane Killer. In Chicago, Illinois, one 8-year-old Jake worked at a candy store during Christmas. Customers loved the giant candy canes, but one shelf had a strange, crooked cane no one bought. That night, Jake stayed late to clean and noticed the cane moving slightly. Shadows flickered across the store, though all lights were on. He heard whispers, "Sweet yours." The cane grew taller, sharp like a blade, and twisted like a snake. Jake tried to throw it into the trash, but it lunged back, slicing the wrapper on his hand. Mirrors reflected a figure behind him, its face masked with candy stripes. He ran toward the door, but the cane rolled across the floor, blocking him. The store seemed to stretch endlessly, aisles bending like a trap. Candies on the shelves began moving, forming lines around him like tiny soldiers. The cane's whispers grew louder, promising pain if he tried to escape. Jake grabbed a broom and swung, and the cane shrieked, recoiling into the shadows. At dawn, the store was empty, the crooked cane gone, but the wrappers on the floor spelled his name in red. Locals say the Candy Cane Killer appears every Christmas Eve, punishing anyone who underestimates a cursed treat. Moral of the story: some treats are deadly, never underestimate what seems sweet and harmless. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe, or follow for more stories on Fun Tales for All.